It's Thursday, April the 15th. Used to be tax day, but looks like they've extended it till May. But anyways, the lake level is about right at 9:15. It hasn't changed, but about a couple inches since the report last week. It's gone down, maybe 2-3 inches. But water temperature just kind of, with the colder nights we've had, it seems to be staying the same. It's anywhere from 55 to 60 degrees. It depends where you're at. A lot of fish are moving up on beds, but I think the cold nights are really holding back the big surge for the fish coming in. So, with that being said, I think a lot of the fish are still out there, getting ready to move in. There are a lot on beds that we're visually seeing and, catching quite a few in some of the spawning coves. It depends what area of the lake I'm at. It seems like, from Campbell Point way on up to Big M, I'm probably getting, more bites than anywhere. I'm finding fish in the spawning coves, and up there I'm catching them on a variety of baits. And the Upper James River, like if you go up into like Eagle Rock, Big M, or in the James, the water is a little bit warmer, just a couple degrees, but that seems to be the areas where there's a lot more, buck bass up. And you got to weed through a lot of the fish to get keepers. But the main lake, the bite to me seems to be, the shallower bite seems to be tougher. You're not getting as many bites, but I'm finding the quality is better. And, and some of them are still out there staging. But as far as the fish I'm catching up there shallow, we're throwing 3 or 4 different things. We're catching a lot of fish on a fluke, some on a Wacky rig Cinco, and a split shot in a Ned rig. Now the fluke, I'm throwing a variety of different baits. I'm throwing like a Zoom Super Fluke, Strike King Caffeine Shad. But it seems like the shad colors are working a little better for me. I will try a watermelon or a Mardi Gras just to keep the fish honest, but it seems like a bait fish or any kind of natural shad looking bait seems to be working the best. And there's a couple different ways I'm rigging them and throwing them. If I'm throwing it on a bait caster, I'm usually throwing it on 12-pound FC Sun Sniper line. And I'll use a 5/0 hook. That'll give me a little bit of, extra weight to help cast the bait. Plus it'll let it sink a little bit. It depends, and you got to kind of play around, let the fish tell you how they want it. If I find I need it sinking a little bit faster, I'll put about a foot up from the hook, I'll put a good sized swivel, similar to like what you'd use on a Carolina rig setup. And that'll do 2 things. That'll help keep the twist out of the line, and it'll also, help the bait drop down a little bit. Another thing I'll do if I don't want to put the swivel in, they sell them little lead weights, look like a little finish nail. I'll take about half one of them, push it inside the bait to give it a little bit of weight. The deal with the swivel, I kind of like the way it falls because the swivel will go down and the bait falls a little slower. When you put the weight in the bait, it'll just go straight down. It doesn't flutter quite as much, but both techniques will work. If you're throwing it on a spinning rod, I'd probably throw it on, 8-pound line, and I'll kind of do the same thing. I'll mix it up with the swivel and a little lead in the hook. But like I say, the 5/0 hook on a spinning rod, I'd probably use a 3 or a 4. I'd use a little bit lighter hook, so it's a little easier to get the hook set. On the bait caster, the 5/0 seems to work good. Now on the Wacky rig Cinco, I'm taking a 5-fish ultimate Ned jig head, just same thing we use for a Ned rig. This is a 16th ounce, and I'll take a little O-ring and put it on the Cinco. A couple different ways you can do that. The Strike King makes a little deal where you actually slide your bait in, or you can make one of these out of an ink pen. And you got your O-rings on the back. You slide the O-rings up, slide it over the bait. Well, I was in the tackle store the other day, and I actually come across these, it's a big bite, and what it is, it's a It's a soft Nico Wacky stick, you know, stick worm, Cinco, whatever you call it. But what's pretty neat about it, it's already got the O-ring poured into the plastic when they build it, so you don't have to mess around with sliding the O-ring in there. Now I'll fish this, same place I'm fishing the fluke. I'm going back in the pockets, areas where I can, visually see some of the fish, and then I'm backing out just a little bit. The little bit better fish seem to be coming. I'm sure they're on beds, I just can't see them. They're out there in a little bit deeper water. Just almost throwing it out there, dead sticking it, and, twitching a little bit. Now the fluke, I'm working it, like I say, you kind of got to let the fish tell you how they want it. Some days I'm working it pretty aggressively, just below the surface. Most of the time I'm letting it sink down to where it's just about out of sight. And, in a lot of them same areas, excuse me, I'm throwing a split shot. You don't hear too much about that. We used to throw it years ago for the Ned rig, but I'm just taking like a Zoom green pumpkin or watermelon red fish doctor, number 3 split shot, about 16 inches up in a 2-aught hook. And just casting it up towards the bank, working it dead slow. The bite's not very aggressive. I think a lot of those fish, again, I'm catching are coming off beds. And most of the time they're just picking that bait up, getting it out of the way. And doing the same thing with a Ned rig, either 1/8 ounce or 3/16. Looks like it's time for me to change that plastic out. You can see how good these baits stay up on these little net heads, especially if you use a little drop of super glue. But I just about got the goodie out of that one. But green pumpkin or dirt, watermelon red seems to be working good on the Ned rig. Now down lake, I can go down on a lot of these flatter gravel points and catch a few fish on the split shot and the Ned rig, but not as many as I can if I get in what I call the spawning coves and the spawning areas. But for some reason, every day, it's going to change. But my number of bites are, coming from the White River, further up, and probably from Hideaway Marina on up to Cape Fair. And I hadn't been up in Long Creek, so I don't know what it's like up there. But I noticed I get up in them river arms just a few degrees warmer. But, like I said, I think there's still a good jerkbait bite. I think there's some bigger fish out there can be caught on a jerkbait and the A-rig. I haven't got too much going on a bottom bite yet, like on a jig or a wobblehead. Seems like you fish 2 or 3 points, maybe get 1 or 2 bites. But I am catching a few fish on ultimate finesse jig. And I like to throw right now the 7/16 or the 5/16 like a PBJ. This is a green pumpkin purple. But in behind the docks, in the walkways, and in the shallow stalls. And I think some of those fish again are in there spawning. The same with the fluke. If you can take that fluke and skip it up underneath them walkways, catching some fish like that as well. But I think if we get some sunlight, as water will warm up just a few more degrees, you'll be able to go in just about every spawning pocket throughout the lake and catch fish, on a Ned rig or a split shot. And I think there's still some that are out there, in that deeper water that haven't moved yet, with the water just barely getting to 60 degrees. The fish are really wanting, some of them are already up there, but there's a lot more wanting to come, but I think they're waiting probably for the next moon and a little bit warmer water. So I think, the next 3 to 4 weeks, the fishing is really going to get, fast and furious, or whatever you want to call it. But, where you can have days where you can catch 40, 45 fish on the light line stuff, on the Ned rig or split shot. And as the water starts warming up a little bit more, we should see a little more topwater action. I am seeing a few fish feeding here and there. They're not schooled up real good, but usually once that water gets up around 70 degrees, and you get some of them fish that are done spawning, and they start to move back out, that's when the topwater bite will get really good. But till next week, good luck, good fishing.